Hello, everybody, and welcome to Jojo Runs for Congress, where we will be talking with the lady of the hour.
The lady of the moment. The lady of the year.
The year?
The year of the nurse, 2020.
Is that what it is?
Yes, according to the World Health Organization.
Oh.
Well, to be clear, nurse and midwife.
Nurse and midwife.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these things. Well, speaking of nurses and midwives, that kind of brings us right into our topic of discussion for today.
Ooh, it's a good one.
So a few days ago, Joanne, or Jojo, how are we referring to you? Jojo posted some interesting stuff on her social medias where she was talking about maternity leave, the Family Medical and Leave Act. So we're going to be talking about that. Her ideas for maternity leave, some facts and figures around the world. You ready?
I'm ready. I love this topic.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So, Jamie.
Yes.
I want you to tell everybody what the current federal legislation is for maternity leave.
Okay.
What it's called, and kind of just take us on a journey through the facts, figures, history, and what other countries do.
Okay. Gladly.
Take it away.
So, in 1993, the United States passed a law called the Family and Medical Leave Act. This law guaranteed 12 weeks of unpaid leave for mothers and fathers of newborn children. Mm-hmm. And recently, actually, it was updated to include adopted children as well. So this was unpaid leave, but you were guaranteed to return to a job at the same rate you were making beforehand.
Yes.
This was you're only able to get it if you had to work a certain amount of hours with the company within the past year. The company has to have at least 50 employees, similar to the ACA. There's a couple other minor stipulations, but that's like the general gist of it. Now, comparatively to the rest of the world, developed or otherwise even, that's pathetic. So we have zero...
Paltry.
Yes, at a federal level, we have 0 hours of guaranteed paid leave. So America is part of a group called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Mm-hmm. Do you want to explain what they are?
So when you're looking to compare America to other countries, the countries in the OECD have the same levels of economic development, and basically if you were to analyze them statistically, they would fall in the same range.
Yeah. It's a group of countries that are very economically developed and are working towards keeping that going and having good standards, good regulation for both companies and employees.
Spoiler alert: the U.S. is an outlier in many
ways.
Many ways.
We were a founder, but we certainly haven't kept up that look.
No.
So basically, we are the only country in the OECD that has 0 seconds even of guaranteed paid leave for mothers and fathers. That's pretty gross. The average for an OECD member country is 16 weeks.
4 months.
Yeah. Actually, no, sorry, it's 18 weeks. The WHO recommends 16 weeks, the World Health Organization. So the OECD actually has higher than what the WHO recommends at 18 weeks. That average was taken without America in mind because
we would drag the average down with a 0.
Way down. Yeah. So what other questions?
Well, I just had a couple thoughts because, especially when you talk, so FMLA only applies to companies with 50 or more employees, and this is a great source of contention, especially when you're writing policy, because a big issue with the ACA was using the 50 employee threshold. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily delineate a company as big enough or having enough money to maybe support maternity or paternity or parental leave benefits. And that's something that you have to take in consideration if we were to write a new parental leave law. You got to write.
We can just call it maternity leave.
We're just going to call it maternity leave for right now.
Because the FMLA, it refers to the maternity leave, but FMLA does apply to
family
both
leave,
mothers and fathers.
Yes.
Well, family leave is different. So speaking of family leave,
okay,
that's
we're not
going to
get on family leave. We're just okay. Let's talk about it is, but the family leave can include grandmothers, your direct immediate family getting sick. So we're just gonna we're just gonna, for the sake of continuity and clarity, and so I don't trip over my P words, maternity leave, as in women that have given birth to a kid or any parent that has adopted a child.
Yeah.
And I think one of the goals of enacting FMLA, and who knows what they negotiated to get this passed in 1993, was that the federal legislation would set the standard, which is we protect your job for 3 months. And hopefully states would actually enact their own laws that would meet that standard and go above and beyond. I know New Jersey has a pretty decent, I think you can take up to 6 months or so.
Yeah, there's actually... So many other states have enacted additional laws. Some of them actually, a couple states, I think New Jersey, like California, New York, have paid leave. Some states have they decreased the threshold from like 50 employees to lower, so more people can just get the basic FMLA. Unfortunately, there's 12 states that have done absolutely nothing. So luckily that means that they're the outliers, they're the minority, but even still, it's not enough. Like, there should be a guaranteed set standard across the nation.
Yeah, and we know it's not enough because even in states where they have extended maternity leave benefits, women are saying it's not enough. And even with the federal baseline legislation, women are falling through the gaps and not getting adequate leave or adequate time off after the birth of their kid.
Yeah.
And that's unacceptable in the kind of country that we live in with the dollar bills we be throwing around. So, sorry. Instead of getting angry, I want to be angry about it. But instead, we should look at how we can fix it, why it's not working, and what we could do instead. Because I do believe my theory for legislation is I would love for states to pick up the banner and to decide to extend their own maternity leave laws to 6 months and make it paid. But I do understand that it gets difficult because the employers are carrying the brunt of that benefit and it's considered a cost. And I can understand that rewriting your business model on the fly to accommodate for 6 months of leave might be difficult. Sure. But I think the message that I want to send here is that suck it up, because 12 weeks of unpaid leave is unacceptable. Yeah. And we know that because there's actual data to show that in the United States, at the 12-week mark, infant mortality for babies that were born full term, and healthy, healthy birth weight with no complications expected is almost twice as high as the international average. So you want to actually give me those numbers, Jamie?
So, yeah, across the board. So if you just want to talk about, let me just shuffle my papers.
Sorry, we're shuffling papers.
The infant mortality rate, just general, all live births in America, we're looking at 5.8 deaths per 1,000. Now, if you look at just a pure numbers, that's that's not that much. But any number of deaths is unacceptable.
For normal weight baby.
This is something humans have been doing for a very long time.
Yeah. But can we also talk about how that number has started to increase as well? It's trending.
It's actually trending down.
It's trending down?
It is trending down.
It is trending down.
It's trending down.
But it's still...
It's just weird because if you look at certain pockets of the United States,
it's going up.
The Southeast is very, very dire. Some states are looking at 8.
Oh. Yeah, but that's a good point, is that even if the overall rate is going down, you are having areas where it's going up. Because
the rate going down could be dragged, it can be altered. Just the straight average doesn't really tell us. It tells us a lot, but because you can have a state like California, which is, it's by far the most populous state in America, and if they enact good state legislation, then they could help. They can drag down the infant mortality rate. So it may overall be looking like it's going down because states like New York and California are very populous states, but then you have smaller states that might not be doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, the world, 3.4 deaths per 1,000. That's not the world. That's comparable countries to the United States. That means economic size, that sort of thing. Now, if you look at, like Joanne said, or Jojo, sorry, healthy full-term births, I believe it was full term and, not full term, no, it was like,
full birth weight.
Full birth weight and past like critical, like,
basically babies that were healthy when they were born.
Healthy babies. Yeah. It's where 1.9 deaths per 1,000, and then the comparable countries is just 1.0 flat. So that's quite a disparity. I mean, we're looking at basically double.
Mm-hmm. And you could argue whether or not it's that 5.79 per 1,000 infant mortality rate in the U.S., could that be contributed to a lot of factors like aging women, or not aging women, women having babies later on in life and such. But regardless of that, there are so many stories of women's experiences having kids and then going back to work that really highlight why this is not only dangerous, but it's wrong to only support women with 12 weeks of guaranteed paid leave. And
even still,
unpaid leave.
There is like proof that for every additional month of paid leave given to mothers, and I don't know, probably fathers too, mostly mothers, the infant mortality rate drops by 13%.
Which is almost 1/5.
That's significant, yeah.
So before we go on, just to highlight some of the scenarios that women and parents in general end up in, I'm going to tell you about Tara. You can find her on The Atlantic. This is not a story that I made up. You can Google it. But Tara's husband suffers from a severe, painful autoimmune disorder and is unable to work. Tara is the family's sole earner. Her company offers no paid leave, and she is ineligible for unpaid leave because her employer falls below FMLA's 50-employee threshold. Even if she were eligible for unpaid leave time, even if she could have taken that unpaid leave, she wouldn't take it, saying, "My family can't afford the loss of even one paycheck."
Yeah.
So to all you naysayers out there that are like, why did she have a kid? Well, look, sometimes it just happens. But so we're going to put that aside. That is not an applicable argument in this case. But the fact of the matter is that she couldn't even take leave if she wanted to because she can't afford to lose a paycheck.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the stress that you would feel having a newborn? And I know to you parents out there, couples that have kids don't sleep for like 6 months. And what if you have more than one kid? What if you have twins? What if you have a 2-year-old that wants your attention at the same time?
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about women going through postpartum depression, and how far can you stretch an individual? At what point we can finally say, this isn't cool, we've had enough. So we've had enough. And my recommendation is that the federal government mandate 6 months of maternity leave. I would like to make that paid 6 months, and whether we supplement that with, there's like 3 main ways that you can pay for maternity leave, whether you pay into an insurance or a government sponsors part of the income that you make, or it's your employer that pays it to you as a benefit. I think employers should just, automatically give that as a benefit every time they hire an employee.
Yeah.
Whether one of those 3 avenues, 6 months, because 6 months is how long most women say, according to the women in my life, that it's enough time to bond with your child, get into a routine, regain your sanity, and even just finding adequate childcare. Because trying to find childcare coverage for a 2, 3, 4-month-old is much more expensive, difficult, and scarier than trying to find childcare coverage for someone that's 6 months or older.
Right.
And it can take a long time for parents to even find reliable childcare coverage. So I know everyone's talking about universal childcare or, daycare, which is great, but we need to talk about what happens when a kid is born up until they're like 1.5 years, when those childcare benefits really might to pay off for working families in terms of giving them options. So, and I think this would save a lot of money, because for employers, you could reduce turnover costs. And if employers just work with the expectation that both men and women or couples in general have kids and it's normal and it's a part of life. Is this too much to ask for a culture? No, I am not settling for anything less than shifting the corporate work culture to accepting that, guess what? 70% of families, I think, are double income. 66%, yeah. Almost 70%.
Yeah.
66% of U.S. families rely on two incomes to survive. So, therefore, let's update our expectations to accepting that we need to create laws that support a workforce culture because that's the reality we live in.
And, how do companies expect
I'm so angry right now.
How do companies expect to replenish their workforce if people aren't going to be having babies?
Okay, people talk about like Medicare not being able to fund. People are having less children and they're like, who is going to pay the taxes to pay into that pot when we're older? Well, guess what? You made life so hard for us to have kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's neither here nor there. But just thinking about this broadly, like this issue is more than just numbers. It's not just saying I can't afford to hire anyone that's going to have a kid. It's accepting the reality, sheer reality of the world that we live in, and that we need to have children because it's not only personally fulfilling and gives like life and purpose to individuals, but society literally needs to replace their population.
Yeah. Well, yes, quite literally.
Yes. So, wow.
I'm getting fired up. It's hot here.
My glasses are steaming up even in the process. Well, this is an issue that just really strikes so close to me because this is my life right now.
Yeah.
We can be personal and honest, can't we? Yeah. One of the reasons why we don't have kids already is because how could we afford to miss a paycheck? And how in the world would we raise it when it got, or who would babysit it? Where would we take the child? The thing.
Don't call it a thing.
It could be a boy or a girl or whatever it wants to be. But this issue is so relevant to me. And I see my coworkers struggle with this. I see them come to work and they're just, I can't imagine the stress of, daycares that close at 4:30 and trying to call people to pick them up, or your kid gets sick and the daycare's like, you got to take your kid home, and you're like, well, I'm like an hour away right now. Can you just hold on to them for a second? So the reason why I'm so fired up about this is because I've watched my coworkers, my peers, my friends go through this, and couple that with the fact that people get stuck playing games with their leave because they want to maintain their health insurance, which is a whole other issue, or just stuck working a job that they don't really need to work, but need to work literally just to maintain their health insurance benefits when they could be spending that time, working on their career moves or taking care of their children. So. Yeah.
So what was your recommendation again?
My recommendation, 6 months paid protected maternity leave.
Okay. For both mothers and fathers.
For mothers. I really got to debate. I think moms. We'll just stick to moms in general at baseline.
Wow.
Moms. Not saying that fathers don't need the same.
I think mothers and fathers.
It will be, mothers and fathers. But I do believe that, okay, let's be realistic here. I would love for mom and dads to have 6 months paid time off. But people will have a field day if you start off with.
Oh, well, I don't know.
But really, it's just like,
you got to start high.
Start high.
We're negotiating,
trade down low. But if we're talking like very specific things that I believe we could pass, that I intend to write,
because that's part of your strengths, I think, right? Is that Joanne has, I think you've gained the knowledge, right, to know how to write a bill and how to be able to negotiate it and get it passed through. What right now is a very, very contentious Congress, right?
Not contentious. Everyone's just really distracted by their feelings.
Sure.
But yes.
So not only you don't want to just propose pie in the sky ideas, right? No. You really want to propose things that you think
love pies in the sky.
Pies are great. Sky is great.
Yeah.
Even better when they're together.
But I promise you guys that I'm here to get shit done.
Right.
And this is part of getting shit done.
Yeah.
It's just...
You have to know what legislation we could pass.
Mm-hmm. And I know that this is something that really matters. It's backed up by data. It matters. It's important to the working workforce. It's important to the basic stability and mental sanity of our economy. And that's why, I do believe that the goal of Congress is to look at and update laws. So I'm not going to... My way of talking about things is not to say destroy the FMLA. It's to say we need to update it because times change. And then maybe in the future, someday in the future, we will say, hey, we saw that the 6 months paid maternity leave really worked. It helped. It benefited so many people. It was worth it. Let's talk about adding on paternity leave. Because, if experience working in a hospital, which is an extremely regulated system, has taught me one thing, is that change small things, little things at a time that can make a big difference, and then see what works, what doesn't work, and then build from there.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
End of story. 6 months paid
Boom.
Maternity leave. And okay, how much time do we have left?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Like a couple. Okay, my only caveat is I can already see all the schemes and ways that employers will try to get around this, and by not hiring you as a full-time employee, or like reducing your hours, or just hiring 49 employees instead of 50 employees. And I can't do anything about that, but I do think there's an opportunity here to actually, in tandem with making this the federal standard, writing legislation that would also create, authorize a program, appropriate funds to, and a federal program that would fill that gap for companies that can't support that as a benefit.
Right.
Does that make any sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I do think that it would be, in an ideal world, if we're talking pie in the sky, that it would be a federal benefit that you could get, just by nature of being an employed workforce citizen, similar to disability, which is funny because a lot of women go on disability, I think, when they have kids already.
Which is kind of a gross thing to think about. It's like,
what?
Oh, you're pregnant, that means you're disabled.
And then you can't take a vacation because they're like, oh, you use your vacation time.
Yeah.
So, to everyone that's thinking, oh my God, my employer won't offer it, or I'm going to get fired, it's going to be Obamacare, all over again, with that whole gap and playing with people's hours. I do intend to write legislation that would create a program and appropriate funds to fill that gap.
Right.
And let's just talk about reality. There has to be employers making an effort, people lobbying their employers in their states to make an effort, and then the federal government is there to supplement until finally we get to a point where everything's operating where it needs to be and it can step back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So everyone stop freaking about the robo takeover of the government.
The robo takeover?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Everyone's like, oh, the glass ceiling, the Florida glass ceiling. If you start letting them do this program or legislation, then they're never going to stop funding everybody. I'm like, okay, guys, as long as you elect real humans like me to the government, don't get any ideas.
Funding everything, you say.
Which would be great, but then where does that money? Okay, we digress. Sound off in the comments below. Any final comments?
Comments below. Oh my gosh. You're a real YouTuber.
No. I watch a lot of YouTube.
Any final comments?
Hit that like and subscribe button.
Hit the like and subscribe button. Ring that bell on YouTube. Subscribe on iTunes.
You think anyone has rung the bell?
Probably not.
No. But at least there is a documented moment in time which I said what I said.
Yes.
And if I'm wrong in the future,
matters.
I apologize for any stress I caused you, but I'm making the best decision that I can.
But Joanne is right about everything.
No, I'm not right about
As her
everything.
husband, I have to say that.
Yes, he has to say that. But, my philosophy is I'm making the best decision I can with the information I have on hand and doing my due diligence and research.
Awesome.
Amen. So, that's a wrap.
That is a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Jojo Runs for Congress.
What a campaign.
What a campaign. Bye-bye.
Bye.